While exploring Freeside, we stumbled upon the Followers of the Apocalypse inside the old Mormon fort. After interviewing everyone here, we finally learned what the Followers are all about, which I covered in a video dedicated to them that you can watch here. But there was one man whom we didn't have a chance to get to know. Even though he's pretty tall, taller than most other people in the Mojave, he's still a rather unassuming fellow, wearing geeky glasses and a follower's lab coat. His name is Arcade Gannon.
Hi. If you're looking for medical help, try the other doctors. I'm just a researcher, not even a particularly good one.
Don't be so modest, Arcade. What kind of research do you do?
Oh, finding alternative treatments for common illnesses and injuries, stim packs out of barrel cacti, and other fantastic improbabilities. As far as fruitless wastes of time go, it's quite noble in its aims.
What's the goal?
For the past 100 years or so, the followers have managed to get by using salvaged medical supplies from the old world. But the side effect of medical success is that more people live longer. Funny how that works. Eventually, we'll run out of hospitals to loot. We need new ways to produce those supplies, or maybe old ways if this research goes anywhere.
What kinds of illnesses are you trying to deal with?
Cuts, lacerations, broken bones, infections resulting from all of the above. Common cold, influenza, take your pick. There are plenty of ways to die out here, and most of them, surprisingly, don't have anything to do with war. Just common human fragility.
Well, you don't sound too enthusiastic about it.
I'm enthusiastic about helping people, but nihil novi sub sole.
Nihi what?
Oh, sorry. There's nothing new under the sun. If agave and mesquite were that miraculous, the locals would have figured it out a few thousand years ago.
That language you just spoke, isn't that the language that Caesar's legion speaks?
Caesar can cite Cato to suit his purpose. Many people have spoken Latin. Some of them were quite pleasant. It's unfortunate that the language is now associated with the gentleman across the river.
Oh, wow, and from this we begin to see just how clever Arcade Gannon really is. There's a lot wrapped up in that. The phrase, Caesar can cite Cato to suit his purposes, is an alteration of a line written by William Shakespeare. His line went, the devil can cite scripture for his purpose, which in itself was a reference to a scene in the Gospel of Matthew when Satan tempted Jesus in the desert and betrayed his knowledge of scripture. But in this line, Arcade changed it to replace Satan with Caesar and the scriptures with Cato. Cato was a Roman senator and historian, but he may be most consequential as being the first person to ever write history in Latin. It is likely from Cato where Edward Salo learned Latin while he was a follower of the Apocalypse. So yeah, Arcade's a pretty smart guy. Anyway, Arcade, where did you learn that?
Not from the Legion, if that's what you're getting at. Books, sheet music, gladiator movie holotapes, bits and pieces here and there. The followers have extensive libraries, but we all draw water from the same old well. Even Caesar.
Do you know much about Caesar?
I don't know anything that the others couldn't tell you. Caesar was one of the followers. Before my time, of course. He wanted to rebuild the new world in the image of the old. A sad story of good intentions gone bad. In that regard, he's hardly unique. If you set aside his leadership capabilities, extensive knowledge, and ruthless cunning, he's just another jerk who steps on people to get his way.
Why do you do research instead of providing medical assistance?
Not all followers are people persons. Besides, someone needs to do research. I have no problem with Julie sticking me back here. Out of sight, out of mind. There are worse things one can be, though I do admit it is a bit boring. Though it has a noble goal, I don't think this research will yield much fruit.
Well, Arcade, do you and the followers need any help?
Personally, no. But thanks to you, Julie says we're a lot better off these days. I'll take her word for it. So thanks.
He has that response, if we've already done many of the quests here for the followers of the Apocalypse. Tell me about yourself.
I'm really very boring. You'd get better stories out of a Freeside junkie.
Aw, come on, Arcade, you can do better than that.
No, really. Have you ever snorted a ground-up Cazador venom sac? Neither have I. But I can guarantee you that a Freeside junkie has.
Okay, fair point. But Arcade, I'm asking you because I'm interested. Don't put yourself down.
Oh, all right. I'm 30-ish. Well, late 30s. I was born west of here. I was an only child and spent most of my time with my mother. My father died when I was young and I never got over it. Oh, and I like medicine and reading books about failed pre-war socioeconomic policies. Right now, I'm sure you're asking yourself, why hasn't some lucky man scooped this bachelor off his feet? Like I said, I'm boring.
Yeah, I'll say.
Okay, you don't have to agree with me that much.
Why don't you like talking about yourself?
Some people do. I just don't. Look, I appreciate that you're trying to be friendly, but I'd just rather not discuss it.
Do you always deflect personal questions?
Only to obfuscate my past association with a fascist paramilitary organization. I'm joking, of course. I will deflect personal questions at any opportunity.
Well, can you at least tell me where you got your medical training?
The followers taught me everything I know about medicine. Despite our humble abode here in New Vegas, we have great facilities back in the NCR. We may have overextended ourselves by setting up camp in Freeside, but the people here need help from someone. If not us, who?
How did you join the followers?
Honestly, it isn't too difficult if you have half a brain and aren't a complete jerk. I wanted to help people and I enjoyed learning, so I signed up. New Vegas is in trouble, so I came out here. If someone doesn't step up and try to help the people here, it's going to end very badly.
What's your opinion on the current situation here in the Mojave?
It could be better. If we can find a way to work toward the independence of New Vegas, that would be ideal. But really, as long as you don't help out the Legion, anything's better than that.
Why do you do research instead of providing medical assistance?
Like I said before, not all followers are good with people. I'm fine doing research back here, even if it is a bit boring and pointless and a complete waste of time. Don't mind me. I'm just voicing my thoughts so they don't burrow out of my skull in a fit of abject despondency.
If we have a good reputation with the followers of the Apocalypse, we can easily recruit him as a companion by saying, "Would you like to come with me? I could use someone skilled in medicine."
You've helped the followers, so you can't be entirely bad. To be honest, I haven't heard anyone say a negative word about you. As long as you keep working to help people around here get a fair shake, sure, I'll lend a hand.
But if we haven't completed the followers' quests, recruiting him is a little bit more difficult. If we say, "Why don't you come with me?"
No offense intended, but why should I go anywhere with you?
We have to convince him. Now, there are two ways to do so. If we have a mail courier with the confirmed bachelor perk, we find an option to say, "I need a good-looking doctor to help take care of me in the big bad wasteland."
Overt flirtation will get you everywhere, you know. On a slightly more serious note, if you're interested in helping out with the troubles plaguing Freeside, I can come with you. Just don't do anything obnoxious, like trying to help Caesar's Legion, and we should be fine. Understood?
Oh, well, in that case, never mind.
I'm not sure why you thought a follower would want to help Caesar after all the misery he's visited on us. And the people we try to help. Well, good luck to you in your future endeavors, assuming they don't involve Caesar.
Or if we have exceptionally low intelligence, Arcade takes pity on us, and we find an option to say, "This place is really complicated and stuff. You're smart. Can you help me do things?"
Wow. You sound like you really do need some help. Look, I can help you out, but you can't do anything I mean, you can't help bad people who want to hurt the locals in Freeside. If you do, I'll leave. Does that make sense?
Or we can pass a 75 speech check to say, "Things are bad around here. I'd like to make a difference, and I'd like you to help me."
That seems appropriately resolute and yet vague. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and go with you, but let me be clear about something. If you plan to help Caesar's Legion, this is going to be a brief relationship. I may not have all the answers for how to fix Freeside's problems, but Caesar taking control isn't part of the solution. Fair?
If we have Rex as a companion when we say, "Fair enough," Arcade says,
A courier, doctor, and a cybernetic dog. After we deal with the whole imminent conquest of New Vegas problem, we should open an act at the tops.
Whereas if we have Ed E as a companion, Arcade says,
There's something about that robot that doesn't seem all right to me. I'm not saying we shouldn't take it with us. I'm just saying that if it were to fall into Lake Mead and be irreparably damaged, and if you threw an EMP grenade in after it, well, there are worse things happening in the world, right?
and he joins our party. He gives us the Better Healing perk. This perk increases our health recovery from consumables by 20%. And it is affected by the medicine and survival skills, which means that it's a wonderful perk for hardcore players and players who have spec'd into fast metabolism and cardiac arrest. So what's your problem with Eddie?
It just seems a little twitchy. Some of these robots, you look at them the wrong way, don't screw in a vacuum tube right. The next thing you know, you're a pile of ash on the floor and someone's stepping out of a Vertibird to sweep your remains into a Nuka-Cola bottle.
Okay.
Fine, ignore me. Just don't ask me to reattach your arm when your pet murder machine goes into search and destroy mode.
That sounds a little paranoid, Arcade.
Does it? does it?
I'll keep an eye on it.
Safety first. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not exactly a mercenary, but taking out scumbags of this magnitude wouldn't cause me to lose any sleep.
With that, we recruit Arcade Gannon as a companion. As a researcher for the Followers of the Apocalypse, Arcade is likely the most intelligent and well-read person we can travel with. This comes out while we explore many locations in the game. He unabashedly hates Caesar's Legion, and he'll comment upon this hatred at every opportunity. His intelligence combined with his hatred of the Legion allows him to see things that others can't. For example, after we confront Benny at the Tops Casino, and then we are approached by either Volpes Inculta or Ilario, depending upon the choices we make in the game, if we have Arcade as a companion, as the Legion spy leaves, Arcade says this.
So, Mr. House doesn't care that one of Caesar's most notorious Legion spies is walking around on the strip. Either that or his Securitron's AI is too primitive to recognize the threat. Neither answer is particularly comforting.
And that's a great point. Volpes Inculta and presumably Ilario are infamous Legion spies. After all, Volpes Inculta was the fellow we confronted at Nipton after he massacred that town. If Arcade can see through a simple fedora and dirty suit, why can't House? But I suppose it's always possible that House does. He just simply chooses not to reveal the Legion spy. As we explore the Mojave, Arcade chimes in with his thoughts and opinions. These moments give us history points that go towards unlocking his personal companion quest. But we have to be careful because depending upon our responses, we could get a history demerit. And if we get too many of them, Arcade will leave our company. One such instance is when we first visit the fort, the headquarters of Caesar's Legion. As soon as we cross the gate...
Wait a second. What's going on? Am I playing Virgil to your Dante? I'd like to assume that we're tiptoeing into the mouth of hell out of academic curiosity, but I'm not so open-minded that I've lost my brains.
That is, of course, a reference to Dante's Inferno, where Virgil accompanied Dante into the pits of hell. Here he's equating Caesar's fort with hell. We gain 1 history point for responding, I just want to hear Caesar out.
Very optimistic of you. You'll make a good follower someday, assuming Caesar doesn't have us both crucified.
We gain 2 history points for saying, let's just listen to him, figure out what he's up to, and get out.
Short of canceling our imminent travel plans, that's the best thing you could have said. Just be careful. If we travel at Caesar's pleasure, he may not let us out as easily as he lets us in.
Or we can say, once we get closer to Caesar, we can strike. But this grants no history points.
Et tu, mi amica? I have to commend you on your sense of historical propriety, but have you given more than a passing thought to how we would escape? No disrespect intended, but you weren't the first person to dream up the idea. Just give me a sign when you're about to pull out the dagger so I know when to make a run for the cliffs.
And that is a reference to William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. In real life, Caesar was assassinated by the Senate, who stabbed him to death with a bunch of knives. In Shakespeare's play, Caesar saw his friend Marcus Brutus as one of his assassins wielding a knife. And in the play, he turned to Brutus and said, "E tu, Brute," which means, even you, Brutus? In effect, he's pointing out the similarities between that event and the assassination that we just proposed. But we earn a history demerit if we respond by saying, with how messed up New Vegas is, do you really think Caesar has nothing to offer?
Well, at least the mess is ours to clean up. Wait a minute. Am I going crazy, or are you actually suggesting it might not be bad if the Legion takes over?
And we earn a second if we respond by saying, yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting.
Okay. I just wanted you to confirm that I'm traveling in the company of an insane fascist. Thanks.
But we can walk away with earning only 1 demerit if instead here we say, I'm just trying to be open-minded.
It's a good thing to be, but you may want to close the floodgates once you see how Caesar runs things.
We find even more opportunities here at the fort. After our first audience with Caesar, Arcade wants to talk about it.
What a load of Brahmin shit! Can you believe that guy?
We gain 1 history point if we respond, he's a madman. What did you expect?
Well, yeah. Right. What did I expect? The man's a megalomaniac. He acts like this is some preordained cycle we're returning to. Of all the people who could learn from our past mistakes, he goes and throws all of our knowledge off a cliff. Instead of trying to learn from the past, he recreates it, runs back over the same old barren ground.
But we gain 2 history points if we can pass an 8 intelligence check to say, I don't think either of us can fully understand what he and the tribes have gone through.
A fair point. But from the perspective of someone west of the Colorado, the man is clearly out of his mind. Maybe he didn't intend for things to wind up this way. But that doesn't mean he needs to perpetuate this bizarre anachronistic myth. And it doesn't mean that we should sit by and nod our heads at every absurd faux Roman casus belli he can dream up. He's a tyrant, the bad kind, and there's no way we're letting him take Hoover Dam.
Or we can say, madman? Who, Caesar?
Of course, Caesar! You can hardly even hold his men responsible, given how they're practically raised to worship him as a living deity. What's the point of surviving the war? Why did the founders of the followers crawl their way out of vaults to bring knowledge back to the wasteland? So we could act like the last 2,000 years didn't happen? Play dress up so we can fight ancient wars all over again? No way is he getting away with this. I'm not letting it happen. You're not letting it happen.
Or we can earn a demerit by responding, he seems pretty smart to me.
Being smart doesn't matter if you're insane. Everything makes sense to Caesar because he's twisted everything to his worldview. He's Caesar reincarnated. The NCR is the corrupt Roman Senate. I wouldn't be surprised if he thought the Colorado River were the new Rubicon. He abdicates responsibility to a myth of historical inevitability. But he's not Caesar. This isn't Rome, and he isn't going to get away with this.
Another opportunity is when talking with Thomas Hildern at Camp McCarran. Thomas Hildern is in charge of the OSI, the Office of Science and Industry, that the NCR founded after breaking ties with the followers of the Apocalypse. This office takes on many of the scientific duties that the followers once did for the NCR. Thomas and his OSI are focused on achieving the NCR's goals at the expense of anyone who gets in their way, a philosophy the followers don't agree with. After finishing our conversation with Hildern, Arcade takes us aside.
Hildern is a good example of big picture obsession gone too far. At some point, he became so fixated on large-scale results that he lost the concept of the common good along the way. It's an inhumane kind of public service when people and the basic resources they need become numbers in a ledger.
We gain 2 history points by saying, good thing there are still people like you around, Arcade.
Kind of you to say, but there are better people than me around here. I just hope the followers can make a difference in the long run.
Or we can respond, I'm sure he means well.
It isn't enough to mean well if you don't do good. I'm sure Caesar meant well too.
But we gain a history demerit if we respond. But in the end, doesn't it all just come down to numbers anyway?
If you lose your humanity, then I suppose that is all that's left.
In addition to learning about his personal philosophy, moments like these also reveal a little bit about Arcade's past, although he keeps his past close to his chest. He didn't want to talk about himself back at the old Mormon fort, but every now and then he lets something slip. A great example of this is when we head southeast of Camp Searchlight and southwest of Matthew's Animal Husbandry Farm. As we approach the hillside, our perception shows hostile enemies off to the southwest. As we creep closer, we see that they're robots. When the robots are finally dead, we see that they were guarding a crash site. As we creep closer, we discover that this is a crashed vertibird.
A vertibird? Interesting. It's been a long time since I've seen one of these.
When was that, Arcade?
Huh. Good question. Must have been in a book.
What exactly do you know about vertibirds?
What does anyone know about them? Big flying machines, right? Crazy helicopters. So weird.
Yeah, so weird. He is definitely hiding something. The crashed Vertibirds site is pretty small. We see a few human skeletons, and we see pre-war markings on the Vertibird, which tells us this must have been a pre-war crash site, guarded for these past 200 years by that swarm of robots. Our reward for fighting through them is a Tesla-beaten prototype, which we find lying on the ground. The Tesla-beaten prototype is a unique Tesla cannon. The last Tesla cannon we saw was Elijah's jury-rig Tesla cannon that we found in Big Mountain during the Old World Blues DLC. It was a powerful energy weapon, but this one is arguably more so. It has a base damage of 90 compared to Elijah's 85. It does the same 20 electrical damage damage over time every 2 seconds, but the unique thing about Elijah's is that it's faster. It deals 1.58 attacks per second compared to the Tesla-beaten prototype's standard 1.34. This means that Elijah's does more damage over time, 154.2, compared to the Tesla-beaten's 155.8. So this one punches harder with each shot, but because it's slower, it does less damage over time. It's still an amazing weapon. It has the same critical damage as Elijah's version, 45, and because its damage is higher, it does greater damage per action point, 3.8. However, its magazine capacity is only 4 compared to Elijah's 6. Another opportunity to learn more about Arcade arrives when we visit the Silver Rush Casino. This, as we already know from my video on the Van Graffs, was the headquarters of the Van Graffs where they sold their energy weapons. This event will trigger whether we've previously cleared this place or not.
That's a lot of energy weapons. Brings back some interesting memories.
Memories of what?
Oh, of hearing stories about energy weapons. They're pretty crazy. Yeah.
If you say so.
Did I say something? Sorry. Don't pay any attention to me. Just babbling. Nonsense, really. Babbling nonsense.
Why does this bring back memories? Do the followers use a lot of energy weapons?
Energy weapons? Of course not. I mean, but we study all sorts of science and technology, so, you just kind of get familiar with them. Yeah.
He says this despite the fact that he currently has an energy weapon holstered at the hip. I think he may know a bit more about energy weapons than he wants us to believe. But where did he gain that knowledge? We learn even more when we visit the Repconn corporate office, which I covered in a previous video that you can watch here as soon as we pass through the door.
I've read about Repconn. I think they did some work with the government before the war. Rockets and some energy weapon prototypes, I think.
What kind of prototypes?
Plasma rifles. They were intended to replace the P-94 plasma caster. There was some corporate espionage going on between Poseidon Energy's Project Semele and whatever was going on here.
Rockets and energy weapons? Well, that's an odd combination.
Repconn went through some rough times. When the rocket business was shaky, Mr. House purchased the company. It didn't take long for him to repurpose their plasma technology for a government weapon contract.
What was Project Semele?
Another one of Poseidon Energy's mini-secret weapon projects, before the Great War. It didn't go anywhere. That's how Repconn got their shot, so to speak.
We can pass a 6 intelligence check to say, how do you know so much about this again?
Stop thinking so much. Thanks.
We gotta find a way to get this guy to open up. Now, if in our gameplay we make decisions that Arcade disapproves of, and we rack up 3 demerits, Arcade takes us aside to give us a warning.
Hey, you're your own person and all that? But you're acting crazy, and if you keep it up, I'm gonna leave.
We could respond, if you have a problem with me, why don't you leave right now?
If you insist, have a nice life.
And with that, we lose him as a companion permanently. We fail his personal quest for Auld Lang Syne, and we can never again recruit him as a companion.
Why don't you make like Odysseus and get lost?
Man, even when he's telling us off, he's being smart. I love this guy. Or we can try to salvage this friendship by saying, sorry, Arcade, I just lose my mind sometimes.
If by sometimes you mean a lot of times, I agree. Please, just settle down, okay?
Or we could be indifferent and say, whatever.
That wasn't exactly the response I was hoping for, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Seriously, though, watch it.
With that, he gives us a warning. We have a chance to redeem ourselves, but if we rack up 3 more demerits, totaling 6, Arcade has had enough.
Well, we've had some laughs, you and I. But it looks like you're a crazy person, and I'm going to have to leave.
Why?
Why are you crazy? That's a question for someone much wiser and more patient than me. All I know is that you are a bad person, and I don't want to be around you anymore. So if that was your goal, congratulations. If not, I'm sorry to inform you that you are, as the locals say, nuttier than a big horner dropping.
Fine. Get lost.
That was the plan. Bye.
And with that, he leaves us as a companion. But that nuttier than a big horner dropping tells us that he can be a little bit earthy, which is a heartening sign. He also leaves if we commit an atrocity, or otherwise do something atrocious. He'll leave if we side with the Legion and attack Hoover Dam, if we assassinate President Kimball and then report to Caesar, and if, while exploring Helios 1, we purposefully or inadvertently arm the Archimedes orbital satellite weapon.
You activated Archimedes? What the hell are you thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking I'm gonna get a sweet pre-war laser. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I'm leaving because you're a sociopath. Good riddance.
In which case he leaves permanently, or if we respond by saying, time for the NCR to roast.
Oh, to hell with this!
He leaves our party and attacks us. On his corpse, all we find is his unique lab coat, Arcade's lab coat. His weapon is a magical weapon that only he can use. His lab coat is not that interesting. It simply has a DR of 3 and grants +5 to science. The lab coat we get for becoming idolized by the followers is much better, and it looks exactly like a typical follower's lab coat. But assuming we don't want to kill him and assuming we don't want to lose him as a companion, once we have between 5 or 6 history points with Arcade, we qualify for his personal quest for Auld Lang Syne. But even after getting all history points, the quest doesn't start until we trigger certain events in the primary plot of the game. It's incredibly hard, if not impossible, to trigger his quest while siding with the Legion or House. I got the quest to trigger by making certain in-game choices that leads to the courier siding for an independent Vegas. Events which I won't list here because I don't want to spoil anything, but they happen pretty quickly after agreeing to help Yes Man. We'll know he's ready to give us the quest when the next time we talk with him and we ask him what his opinion is of the current situation, he responds like this.
I think you're on the right track. The only way to ensure relative safety and independence for the people of New Vegas is to prevent others from taking control of the region. That means no NCR, no Mr. House, and no Legion.
Once we hear that from him, he'll trigger the quest.
I need to talk to you about something, if you have a minute.
Sure, Arcade, what's up?
Any day now? Caesar's going to try to march across Hoover Dam and kick NCR out of the Mojave. We're getting caught up in something important out here. Hell, after how you handled Benny, you're practically right in the middle of all this. I know I'm just along for the ride, but it's made me think about the past and how I might be able to help out.
What are you talking about?
I wasn't always with the followers, or with the NCR. My late father was an officer in a group called the Enclave, a remnant of America's pre-war government. Memories being short around here, not a whole lot of people remember them. But they did bad things. Terrorized communities, kidnapped people. Eventually someone stopped them. I was born a few years later at a military base on the coast, a place called Navarro.
The Enclave. Now it all makes sense. That's why he knew so much about energy weapons. That's why he recognized the Vertibird. And that's why he was so nervous around Eddie. Eddie, who was on his way to Navarro. Navarro, which used to be the home of the Enclave. Navarro that was destroyed by the NCR. So where did the Enclave go?
A lot of different places. I only know what I was told. Some of them were cut down by the NCR and the Brotherhood. Some of them went east. My mother never told me what happened to my father, but she and I went south with some others and integrated into the NCR. When the NCR learned that Enclave personnel had integrated, we kept moving to the fringes. It's one of the reasons why I wound up out here.
What happened to Navarro?
After the Enclave's command structure fell apart, it was only a matter of time before Navarro was overrun by NCR forces. My mother and I left with some of the troopers from my father's old unit, the same people I've kept in contact with over the years. Anyone who didn't get out was killed by the NCR. Even some of the ones who escaped were eventually hunted down by the Brotherhood of Steel.
Where are you going with all of this?
The Enclave did a lot of bad things, but there were good people at Navarro. Good people with a lot of experience. Not many of them are alive anymore, but I think they can make a difference in the fight against Caesar.
Do you want them to help the NCR?
That's a hard question to answer. I know I don't want the Legion to take Hoover Dam. So militarily, yes, I want them to help NCR. If possible, I'd like to figure out a way to help the NCR win Hoover Dam without holding New Vegas.
It's clear from this that Arcade prefers the independent ending to New Vegas. For now, we can say no more, I'll do it.
Great. I'd like you to talk to the old-timers, the Remnants. I don't think I can convince them by myself. To them, I'm still a kid. But you're a big part of what's happening out here. When you talk to them, they'll understand how important this all is. I've kept in contact with them over the years, so I know where you can find them. But I doubt they'll open up to you unless I come along. I know I'm not always the most serious guy around, but this means a lot to me. Thanks.
And with that, we begin the quest for Auld Lang Syne. Now, despite what Arcade wants, once we get the quest, we can resolve things any way we want. And yes, that even means siding with the Legion. Though it means our character is a bit bipolar, because we have to make some very anti-Legion decisions to even get this far to accept his quest. But at any rate, that option is available to us. Now, we need to track down the Enclave remnants and convince them to reunite and fight at the battle for Hoover Dam. Our first stop is Novak, where we find a woman named Daisy Whitman wearing a straw cowboy hat, standing at the top of the stairs on the second level of the motel.
Your travel's been going all right?
What do you do in Novak?
I help folks strip down the more complicated bits of salvage they bring in. Engines mostly. The bits and pieces we take out are usually worth more than the whole thing put together.
Arcade asked me to find you. I'm reuniting the remnants, and they'll need your piloting skills.
Told you everything about us, did he? Well, it's been a while since I've had my hands on the controls of a Vertibird. There's a chance I could crash us in the middle of Lake Mead. That place seems to attract aircraft for some reason. But if I get one more chance to fly, count me in. I'll be there. My part of the passphrase is dear.
How did you like flying Vertibirds for the Enclave?
I was never happier than when I was in the cockpit. I was able to go just about anywhere and everywhere, limited only by the fuel I could carry. There were more than a few missions where I took the scenic route home just so I could stay in the air. Caught hell for it every time, but worth it. Some of the things we did were questionable, I know. That's just how it was back then. Figure I've done enough good to make up for any sins, anyhow.
Thanks, Daisy. Goodbye.
Watch your six out there.
Since my mother died, Daisy's been the only woman in my life. She was the only other woman close to my father, too. She flew him out on over a dozen missions, including his last. I've always been close to Daisy. There have been some good men along the way, but lovers make poor confidants. Daisy never had children of her own, so she was always there to listen. Being in the Enclave didn't mean much to her. She just loved to fly. It broke her heart to be grounded.
Some people can't stop reliving their glory days.
Not much glory in the Enclave. Most of her old comrades are long gone. I know life as a salvager can't compare to being a Vertibird pilot, but at least it's a life. That has to count for something.
It was an important part of her life. Why shouldn't she enjoy it?
As screwed up as it sounds, at least she was a part of something. Granted, it was something admittedly pretty bad, but it was something. If you spent the first half of your life flying Enclave troopers in a Vertibird, I suppose picking over pre-war rocket parts doesn't quite compare.
Sounds like Arcade is a bit ashamed of his own connection to the Enclave, because he admits here that the Enclave was pretty bad. But the Enclave is long gone, and Daisy appears to have changed. Can she, all these years later, still be held accountable for the things she and her faction did when she was young? But we don't have time for that now. Next, we'll head to Jacobstown to talk with Dr. Henry. We met Dr. Henry when I did my video on Jacobstown. He is also the one who did the operation to give Rex a new brain.
Is there something else I can do for you?
So you're a scientist?
Yes, specializing in neuroscience, both human and canine. Of course, this lab is nothing compared to what I had when I was with the Enclave.
Unlike Arcade, who was really cagey about his connection to the Enclave, Dr. Henry is pretty forthright. Tells us about his connection to the Enclave almost right off the bat. So Doc, you were with the Enclave?
Yes, but the leadership and I didn't see eye to eye, so I left. It was the right decision, since the Enclave's oil rig was destroyed not long after.
He is, of course, referring to the events of Fallout 2. Well, Doc, Arcade Gannon has asked me to gather all the former members of the Enclave in the Mojave.
I'm intrigued, so I'll go to this reunion. I'll be handing things over to Calamity, so talk to her if anything comes up. Oh, you'll need my word from the passphrase to get into the bunker. Friends. Don't forget it.
Dear and friends. We're getting somewhere. Thanks, Doc.
Yes.
Doc Henry always was a hard one to figure out. It didn't seem to matter whether he was working with humans or dogs. He had an equal lack of affection for both. A regular Diogenes. I'm not sure what the man was after. Knowledge is power, but to what end for Henry, I have no idea. The problem was what mattered to him, not its practical impact. He simply solved riddles because they existed.
Diogenes was one of the first cynics in ancient Greece. He valued poverty and was critical about almost everything. But as for Doc Henry, it seems pointless to do all of that without a goal.
I'm sure Henry has goals. He was just more concerned with the how than the why of things. Being in the Enclave didn't really mean much to him. I guess I'm lucky that I'm part of the followers. Helping people as a doctor is important, but with the followers, it feels different. It feels like we're working towards something more important. That's more than the sum of the good deeds that we do.
Well, it sounds like his work was what mattered to him.
Not everyone dreams of being a revolutionary, I suppose. Maybe we can't all change the world. Maybe it's enough just to do good for the short time that we're here. No one's going to sing Doc Henry's praises when he's gone. But he's probably saved more lives than I ever will.
That's a pretty insightful response from Arcade. Here we find a man who didn't really seem to care about his subjects, whether dog or human. He was just so focused on his work, and yet Arcade cares a great deal about people. But when it comes down to human life, Doc Henry's had the greater impact. What then is more important? Fame and praise for doing good, or the good itself? This kind of thinking gets us dangerously close to an ends justifies the means sort of mentality. A man like Doc Henry could have been used to do great evil. A man who is only interested in the science could be used by other men to commit great atrocities. I suppose then what matters to do the greatest good is to put the right people in charge, to support the right causes. But who decides who it will be who commands the scientists, the engineers, and the people with other skills who can do great things? People like Arcade? People like the Courier? People like Caesar? To find the next remnant, we head to Vault 34. Cannibal Johnson lives nearby, but we have to clear the place of geckos before we can move forward. The magic of Robco's wrist-mounted technology tells us that Cannibal Johnson is living in a cave somewhere to the southwest. As we walk that way, we crest a hill to find Cannibal Johnson's cave amongst the rocks to the northwest. On the other side of the door, we find the cave floor booby-trapped. We have to disarm a bear trap on the ground before moving forward. We see that Cannibal Johnson is pretty much living in squalor. We find him standing by a campfire in the middle of the cave.
Well, it's about damn time. What took you...
Oh? You were expecting someone else?
I've been in the Reaper's shadow for a long time now, and I thought he'd finally showed up to collect. He's just mocking me now.
You sound like you're eager to die.
There's a twitch in my trigger finger. I've lost my eagle eyes, and the other day I could have sworn I heard Sergeant Dornan chewing me out. I'm old, and I'm starting to feel it. It's not pleasant, especially when you know your mind's slipping away. And we all gotta go sometime. But I was hoping for something a little more heroic.
Who's Sergeant Dornan?
He was a drill instructor I knew. He was also the meanest bastard I've ever known. Once he caught this private out of uniform, and old Dornan went off on the most ear-blistering rant known to man. It was inspiring.
You served in the military?
Yeah. It was a long time ago. Things were better back then.
Tell me about yourself.
What do you want to know?
So, you're a cannibal?
I'm not saying. It's part of my mystique, after all.
We can pass a 30 speech check to say, it sounds like there's an interesting story behind it.
The truth of it is that I did cut out a raider's heart, but only took a bite to mess with his buddies. They had me surrounded, and I went with the first thing that came to mind. Some ran, and the rest were startled just long enough.
You live out here by yourself?
Sure do. Had a wife for a while. Tribal girl, really pretty eyes. But she's been gone a long time now.
Arcade asked me to gather all the remaining members of the Enclave in the Mojave.
Thought I recognized the fellow with you. So what's this reunion all about then?
Why? You got something better to do?
Hey, I was just asking. No need to get uppity about it. I'll be at the reunion, don't you worry.
I'm gathering allies, just in case.
Yeah, the NCR and the Legion are about due for another dust-up. So you're gonna get yourself involved in that. All right, I'm in. Could be fun.
Arcade thinks your experience in technology will help resolve the conflict in this region.
Well, now there's an interesting idea. Do a bit of good before we're all dead and forgotten. You can count me in. Oh, and in case Arcade forgot to mention it, there's a 5-word passphrase needed to get into the bunker. My word is old. Appropriate, huh?
If I had to pick anyone who didn't belong in the Enclave, it would definitely be Johnson. He hated what the Enclave was doing. Day to day, week to week, he would question orders, subvert mission objectives, do anything he could to serve without serving. It's amazing he was never court-martialed. He always had good things to say about my father. Said I was like him in a lot of ways. I wish I knew.
I'm sure your father would be proud of you.
I wonder if he would. It's pointless, I know, but sometimes I wonder what he wanted me to be. Maybe being a doctor in the middle of Nevada wasn't exactly what he had in mind for his little boy.
Why worry about it? You don't have to be your father.
I grew up without him. I'll always feel like something is missing from my life, but you're right. It's not like I'm the only kid in the wasteland who's grown up without a dad. Johnson always said my father was a good man. If that's the only thing about me that's like him, that's enough for me.
So it sounds like Cannibal Johnson is in, and we get his part of the passphrase. Old. Dear friends old. Dear old friends? His cave is pretty small. It looks like he's trying to live a somewhat civilized life here. We find art and lights on shack walls erected nearby. We find some minor loot here, but it's all set to owned, including one copy of Lad's Life on a nearby shelf. We find more posters to the southwest, including one of Dean Domino. I wonder what Johnson would think if we told him we actually met the fellow. He has one suitcase here marked Enclave Footlocker. If we pick it, we find a small stash of caps, but a whole lot of electron charge packs. To find the next remnant, we need to head to the Crimson Caravan. If we follow the road south and then take it east, we find a house on the left side of the road labeled Orion Moreno's house. We find quite a sprawling house on the inside. Like a TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the out. And it shares the floor plan of Doc Mitchell's house in Good Springs. But there's really nothing interesting here, so when done exploring, we find Orion Moreno sitting in a chair at his table.
Looks like I forgot to lock the doors again. If you're with the NCR, get out. This place is mine, and I'm not leaving.
Do you have something against the NCR?
Oh, like you wouldn't believe. The NCR makes a habit out of wrecking homes. I came out here to get away from them. Didn't work out so well. Next thing I know, I'm squatting in their land. Never mind that I already been living here for years.
What do you do around here?
Do? I don't do anything. I'm retired.
So what did you do before you were retired?
I was a soldier. Why do you even care? I came out here to forget about the past, so quit bringing it up.
Arcade and I were looking for you. We are gathering the remnants.
Been a while, Arcade. So, what's the point of all this? Can't find any younger mercenaries?
I never said anything about paying you.
You're doing a fine job of convincing me to go along with this. Really. I'll ask again, why us?
Your advanced level of tech would be useful in settling things between the NCR and the Legion.
Is that right? The million-dollar question is, who exactly are we settling?
Or we could say, there isn't anyone else around with your equipment and expertise.
You can thank the NCR for that one. Wait, this isn't on behalf of the NCR, is it?
Now we have to be careful how we respond to this guy. We have to get him to the meeting. If we respond by saying, I haven't decided...
You haven't decided. Well, this is just getting better every second, isn't it?
He's not pleased. We can try and figure out what he wants. Does it matter who we help?
Yeah, it does. There's not a chance you'll find me helping the NCR in any way. They've caused me too much grief.
Do you have a preference whom we help?
I wouldn't mind cutting down a few platoons of NCR troopers with my old Gatling laser.
Due to his hostility towards the NCR, we don't find any options to ask him to support the NCR. We can either truthfully tell him that we want to help the Legion, or we can lie to say that we're there to help the Legion. Either way, he has the same response.
All right, then. I'll show up at this gathering of yours. It might be good to see the others. Johnson excluded.
And it sounds like he's not fond of Cannibal Johnson for some reason. Or we can dodge the issue entirely by saying, look, are you coming to this thing or what?
Oh, I'll come. But depending on the plan, I might not be staying. Keep that in mind. Arcade might have mentioned there's a passphrase needed to get into the bunker. My part is remember.
That's fine, as long as we get him there. His part of the passphrase is remember. Dear old friends, remember what? So, Orion, what did you do when you were with the Enclave?
Heavy weapons trooper. Nothing better than hosing down a target with an excess of bullets and laser fire. By the time I got through with things, not much was left standing. Any morons who didn't run when they saw me coming got what they deserved. Back then, it was war. If we'd been on the winning side, I'd be called a hero.
And with that, he has nothing left to say. But Arcade has something to say. He runs up to have a chat.
Moreno took the fall of the Enclave hard. He never questioned his orders, never questioned the legitimacy of what the Enclave was doing. To him, it was all one unbroken chain, from Washington to Richardson. When we left Navarro, I remember looking up at Moreno. He said, "Kiss America goodbye, boys." When we left the Enclave behind, the love in him burned itself out. Now there's just a bitter old man left.
A man should know when to let go.
It's been decades, you know. By now, he's been out of the Enclave longer than he was in. Most people know when to hang it up and start over. But not Moreno.
Don't be too hard on him. It's part of who he is.
I suppose you're right. When you're part of something for that long, maybe it's impossible to let go without losing part of yourself. Moreno may be a stubborn son of a bitch, but at least he's loyal.
With that, we have one remnant left to track down. We find him hiding right out in the open, in the middle of Westside, playing chess with a Westside resident outside Miguel's pawn shop. Here, wearing a red hat like many of the residents here in Westside, we find Judah Krager.
You don't strike me as someone down on their luck. What brings you to Westside?
What do you do in Westside?
I help tend the crops, stand watch for fiends, and generally help keep things civilized.
How long have you lived in Westside?
Couple of years now. I was a trader for a while, but got tired of all the walking. Westside was a good place to settle down as any.
Arcade asked me to find you. I'm gathering the remnants.
Hello, Arcade. Making some new friends, are you? Why the need for a bunch of old war horses like us?
You tell me.
Well, assuming our equipment cache is intact, my squad would have the edge in armor and firepower. There's only a handful of us, though, so the best tactic would be for us to swoop in where the target isn't expecting us. How am I doing?
You're doing well, but it was Arcade's suggestion, not mine.
It really must be bad out there if he's sending you to us. Is the idea that we swoop in by Vertibird, guns blazing?
That's way better than what I had in mind.
I hope you weren't thinking we were going to take the lead. That's no job for a bunch of graybeards, or gray heads in Whitman's case.
I think you'll be a very good distraction.
Yeah, well, don't count on us sticking around if things get too hot. We're not a suicide squad.
You'll be the element of surprise.
Swooping in on a Vertibird, guns blazing? Haven't done that in years, but all right, I'm in.
Sounds good to me. Does that mean you're in?
I'll be there, but it won't mean squat if the rest of the group isn't there, too. Oh, and you'll need my part of the passphrase to get into the bunker. Navarro.
Dear old friends, remember Navarro. Hey, Judah, tell me about the old days with the Enclave.
I miss those days sometimes. We all had a purpose, you know? I admit that some of the folks in charge were pretty ruthless. The rest of us, though, we were just trying to civilize things. The NCR was still new, and it didn't look like they'd last all that long. Then we lost the oil rig, and shortly after that, the base at Navarro. Nobody left except us remnants.
What happened to the Enclave oil rig and Navarro?
Internal sabotage took down the oil rig. Never did get the full story. The NCR took out Navarro, saying we posed a threat to the region.
He never got the full story, but we learned the full story about who exactly was responsible for the internal sabotage during the events of Fallout 2. The saboteur was none other than the Chosen One, the grandchild of the original Vault Dweller. Well, and Frank Corrigan. I'd love to know more about your former squad.
I was the officer in charge, and Johnson and Moreno were my heavy hitters. Henry handled tech things, and Whitman flew the chopper. Johnson and Moreno never got along, and I had my hands full keeping those two apart some days. It was a difference in philosophy, mostly. Mercy was not part of Moreno's vocabulary.
Goodbye.
Uh-huh.
Judah Krieger is the glue that's kept us all together over the years, and with good reason. Anyone who can command Moreno and Johnson in the same unit without somebody getting fragged is one hell of a leader. Krieger was polite and kind, but never warm. He always did his best to make me feel welcome in the group. I think he did it out of a sense of loyalty to my father. Loyalty means a lot to Judah. Not loyalty to the Enclave, or even the ideals they fought for, but to the people who served with him.
That's their story, Arcade, not yours.
Oh, I know. I was only a boy when they went through hell together. I'm glad you're helping me reunite them. Even if I'm still just a spectator in all of this, I know they can still do some good.
They're loyal to you, too.
Sometimes I wonder how much of my father they see in me. They went through a lot together, but my family went through it too. I'm glad they've watched out for me all these years. Maybe someday I can return the favor.
So it sounds like Moreno and Johnson really don't like each other. Hopefully we can depend on Judah Krieger to keep things civil at the reunion. Well, with everyone rounded up, we now have to make our way towards the Remnants Bunker. We likely found the Remnants Bunker while exploring the road that leads to Jacobstown. If we head southwest off the beaten path, we eventually find a hatch in some rocks to the northwest leading to a cave. Inside, we find a door, and next to the door, a door control panel. It appears that some sort of passphrase needs to be entered in order to open the nearby door. But we know the password. Dear old friends, remember Navarro. The door slides open, and we enter a pre-war military bunker, very similar to the one we found at Hidden Valley. Heading down the steps, we open a door to arrive in a large, vaulted chamber with a vertibird. And this one has Enclave markings on it. This pre-war bunker was clearly used by the Enclave after the collapse of the U.S. government, and it's been here undisturbed for all this time. We find 2 Enclave crates filled with ammunition and mines, but to take it would be stealing. And against the southern wall, we find a bank of suits of power armor held in some sort of containment field. But we can't interact with any of these, though I'd love to get my hands on one. To continue forward, we open the door to the west. We arrive inside the Remnants Bunker, and we see the Remnants arrayed around a large console in the middle of the room.
What are you talking to me for? Talk to Krieger.
Krieger's the officer here, not me. The final say on the plan is up to him.
I'm ready to fly once we've got a plan. Talk to Judah.
To kick things off, we need to talk with Judah.
Glad to see you made it here all right. So, who are we going up against?
What is this place?
This was a minor refueling station for Vertibirds. It seemed an appropriate place to stash our equipment if we ever needed it. I'm surprised this place hasn't fallen apart. When I put it into standby mode, I expected to return to it within a few years, not decades.
How are you going to deploy your squad?
Moreno, Johnson, Henry, and I will be the boots on the ground. Whitman will stay with the Vertibird.
We must now make the choice. Do we have the Enclave remnants support the Legion or support the NCR? We'll start by asking the remnants to help the Legion take over the dam.
Well now, an opportunity for payback after all these years. Johnson won't go along with it, though. He actually likes the NCR.
Ah, so that's why Moreno and Johnson don't see eye to eye. Johnson likes the NCR, Moreno hates them. Can't you just order Johnson to go along with the plan?
I stopped being Johnson's officer a long time ago. Everyone here respects me, but they don't need to follow my orders. Not anymore.
Any chance of talking Johnson into staying?
No, I'm afraid. Johnson truly hates the Legion.
Will Johnson become a liability?
He won't turn on us, but he's a good shot, and I'd hate to do this without him.
Enough about Johnson. What's next?
Since Johnson won't be needing his power armor, I've decided to let you have it. You'll need training in how to use it, so talk to Moreno about it.
But just as we leave...
You got the survivors of the Enclave back together so you could convince them to help Caesar? What are you thinking? Do you want to see Vegas turned into the new slave capital of the West?
Actually, yes. I would like to see New Vegas turned into a slavery hub.
Great. You're either unimaginably cruel or profoundly insane. Either way, I'm not going to wait around for you to help the Legion roll across Hoover Dam. Bye.
The Legion is a better alternative.
What? Caesar is going to enslave or kill everyone in the Mojave. And when that's done, he'll try to destroy the NCR Senate and install himself as its new military dictator. I can't comprehend how Caesar could so extensively scramble your sense of morality to make you think the Legion is a better alternative to anything. And you know what? I'm not going to stick around to try and figure it out. At least legionaries have the excuse of being born into it. Have a nice life.
Or we can say, the NCR is broken beyond repair. Its time has come.
If the NCR is broken, it will fail on its own. The people who live here don't deserve to be victims of your misguided attempts at political engineering. Or are they just collateral damage?
More than collateral damage, a necessary sacrifice.
How noble of you. Sorry, but I won't be sticking around to see if you have the courtesy to lay flowers on the mass grave that the Legion's going to dig for them.
Collateral damage. That's a good way to put it.
Sure, if you're a sociopath, enjoy the fruits of your labor.
The people who live here hide behind the NCR's protection, and they deserve everything that's coming to them.
They sure don't, but I hope you get everything that's coming to you. Have a nice life.
With that, Arcade leaves our company permanently and walks out the door. We can check in with the Remnants.
I heard the Legion doesn't care for women, but as long as they stay out of my way, I'll get along just fine with them.
I'm not helping the Legion no matter how much you talk them up. I will help my friends prepare, but that's it. I'm not sure helping the Legion is the right idea, but I'm going along with it. We'll be ready, don't worry.
Since Johnson won't be coming with us, you might as well take his suit of power armor. I'll teach you the basics of how to use it.
And Orion gives us a full suit of Remnants power armor, which we'll explore in just a bit. If we quickly race out of the bunker, we can try to track down Arcade. We see him walking away.
For as lack of adornment is said to become some women, so will this place, without your presence, bring delight.
This guy's devastating burns, holy cow. And this is a reference to a quote from Cicero. Cicero's original quote went, "For as lack of adornment is said to become some women, so this subtle oration, though without embellishment, gives delight." He's basically saying that some women look prettier without jewelry and makeup, and some simple speeches without a bunch of oratory flair are more pleasing than those that have them. You got any more for me, Arcade?
I've run out of witty ways to tell you to leave, so why don't you just go?
Oh, okay. The other option, of course, is to tell Kruger that we want the Remnants to help the NCR to hold the dam.
Then that's the plan. We're gonna have a problem with Moreno, though. He won't like that we're helping the NCR. You'll have to talk to him.
But if we choose this option, Orion Moreno taps out. You're the officer here, Judah. Can't you just order Moreno to go along with the plan?
I stopped being Moreno's officer a long time ago. Everyone here respects me, but they don't need to follow my orders. Not anymore.
What's Moreno's problem with the NCR?
They won. We didn't. It's as simple as that. The rest of us moved on while Moreno didn't. Still, I'm not convinced Moreno hates the NCR as much as he thinks he does. You still might be able to talk him out of leaving.
Will Moreno be a liability?
He won't turn on us, but he's a good shot, and I'd hate to do this without him.
We don't need him. If he wants to go, let him go.
I disagree. You're the one who wanted our help in the first place. You want us to succeed, you go talk to Moreno.
All right, I'll talk with Moreno.
You've got only one chance at this. I know Moreno. Once he's made up his mind about something, there's no changing it.
We see Moreno quickly slip out the door, but the rest of the remnants seem all right with it.
The NCR's got its share of warts, but I'd rather have them around than the Legion.
I'd love to see the look on the NCR's face when I swoop down in my chopper.
The NCR's the best bet for the wasteland. I'm glad we'll be helping them out.
But now we've got to convince Moreno. We'll step outside to have a chat with him.
I didn't come all the way out here just so we could save the fucking NCR. I'm out.
What are you doing?
Getting my gear. What does it look like? What, you think I'm going to leave this here for someone like you? I don't think so.
Will Caps change your mind?
No amount of caps will ever repay what the NCR robbed from me.
We could pass an 80 speech check, or we could simply say, all right, Moreno, goodbye.
Change of plan. You'll find that I've sealed the doors to this hangar. I don't want my friends getting involved in our little disagreement. Once I'm done with you, I'll talk them out of this stupid plan. You've opened some old wounds. It's only fair I return the favor.
Oh, what will your friends think about this?
I've known them far longer than you have. They'll get over it.
We don't have to fight. We can still talk about this.
No, I'm done talking.
All right, then. Come and get me.
Let's see what you've got.
And we kill him.
I shouldn't be surprised at what happened with Moreno. I hope that after all this time, he could put his anger behind him. Maybe everything good in Orion Moreno died at Navarro. And it was foolish to think there was anything in him left to salvage.
Moreno was a lost cause, but at least the others made it.
I've been wondering about Daisy and the others for so long, I still haven't figured out what I should do. I mean, I'm not like them. I was born at Navarro and my father served with them, but I wasn't really part of the Enclave. It seems presumptuous of me to think I could join the fight, even if this is a cause worth fighting for. Because I know when fighting breaks out at the dam, all hell is going to break loose in Freeside. They're going to need every doctor they can get.
This choice dramatically affects Arcade Gannon's ending and seals his fate for the rest of the game. We can say, if you're so sure it's going to be a bloodbath, maybe you should stay in Freeside.
I figured you'd say that. Sometimes staying put is the best thing you can do. I'll leave the fighting to the old warhorses. It's what they were made for. I need to go take care of something before I set up at Freeside. I'll see you soon. And again, thanks for your help with the others.
Or we could say, what happens in Freeside won't make any difference if the Legion takes the dam. Fight with them.
Good point. You've been encouraging the others to stand up and fight. Maybe I should take the same advice. After all, I also lived in Navarro. There's something I need to go do, but I'll catch up with you later. Thanks again for your help with the others. It means a lot to me.
Either way, we permanently lose him as a companion, and he runs out the door. But before we chase after him, we can loot the corpse of Orion Moreno. We gain quite a stash. The door override card, which we can use to access the Remnants Bunker, a bunch of ammunition, a Gatling laser, and a full suit of Remnants power armor. As we head back to the Remnants Bunker to check in,
We saw everything through the security monitor. I had no idea Moreno would ever pull something like that. By rights, Moreno's power armor now belongs to you. Whitman's volunteered to show you how to use it, so talk to her as soon as you can.
I'll talk to her then.
The training might take several hours, so keep that in mind.
But there is a way to get this far without killing Orion Moreno, and that is to pass an 80s speech check when confronted to say, the remnants come in, guns blazing, showing the NCR how it's done. Are you saying you actually don't want to be a part of that?
I can't believe you've actually talked me into this. Fine, I'm in. But don't expect me to hold my fire if any NCR troops get in the way.
Thanks for doing this. Getting them all back together again. I'll be honest, when Moreno started going off, I didn't think we'd all be walking out of there in one piece. I still don't know how this is all going to shake out in the end, but at least the Enclave can atone a bit for all the damage it's done.
We then have the same choice we had earlier, to either convince Arcade to fight with the remnants or to go back to Freeside. His personal outcome does not change, but Moreno's does. By passing the speech check, we convince him to set aside his hatred for the NCR, and he promises to fight for the NCR at the final battle for Hoover Dam. He walks back into the Remnants Bunker, and Judah appears to thank us.
Moreno's a stubborn son of a bitch, but he's also tougher than any of us. I'm glad you were able to talk him into staying. Since Whitman will be staying with the Vertibird, she's offered to give her old suit of power armor to you. You'll need special training to use it properly, so talk to her as soon as you get the chance.
But we still get a full suit of Enclave power armor. To get it, we need to head back inside.
I can't believe I'm going to help the NCR.
And then check in with Daisy.
I appreciate you keeping Orion in the group. Since I won't be needing my armor, makes the cockpit a bit cramped, you should take it. It'll take a few hours to show you how to use it properly, so let's get started.
She can give us power armor training, if we hadn't already gotten it from the Brotherhood of Steel. The Enclave power armor is nearly identical to the advanced power armor found in Fallout 2. This suit has the highest DT of any suit of armor in the entire game. However, it has the lowest item HP of any suit of power armor, meaning that it's going to deteriorate incredibly quickly, demanding constant repairs. The suit has a DT of 28, grants +1 to strength, but only +15 to radiation resistance. It weighs a whopping 45 pounds. The helmet has a DT of 8, but it removes 1 charisma and only gives us a bonus of +5 to radiation resistance. The suit itself is beautiful, with a black matte paint scheme, and it has Enclave insignia on the shoulder. It does look worn. The paint on the edges has all been worn away, and we find minor scratches here and there, but still it's a handsome suit of power armor. After getting the suit of power armor from Daisy and leaving the Remnants Bunker, we complete the quest for Auld Lang Syne, and from here on out, the door to the Remnants Bunker is permanently sealed.
We'll be ready, don't worry.
We can't go back. Now we need to turn around and finish the game, sadly without our companion, Arcade. But as we leave the bunker...
Like I said, I needed to go do something. This is it. It belonged to my father. Since you convinced me to help out with the defense of Hoover Dam, I figured I'd haul it out of storage. I'm a little rusty with it, but I think I can manage. As long as you got my back, of course.
If we convinced Arcade to fight with the Remnants, he returns wearing a full suit of his family's personal power armor, and he walks back into the Remnants Bunker. However, we can't follow him. He presumably heads into the closed door, being guarded by Judah, which we sadly can't access, and there he remains until the end of the game. But if we convinced him to stay in Freeside to help out the people when we leave the bunker...
Like I said, I needed to go do something. This is it. It belonged to my father. I thought I might wear it at Hoover Dam, but after you talked me out of it, I didn't see the point in hanging on to it any longer. I'm here because of you, so I figured you're the one most deserving of it. It should protect you from everything short of a plasma caster. And if you need anything at all, you know where to find me.
What are you gonna do now?
Back to old Mormon Fort, where I can do some good. We followers may be idealistic, but even I know this is going to end in blood.
We could be extremely rude to this poor guy and say, "Oh, your family's personal suit of power armor? Thanks, I guess."
I have to admit, I did not expect that sort of response. This is one of the last surviving suits of original issue Tesla armor from Navarro, and it was worn by my father, but... yeah, I guess it's no big deal. Good luck at Hoover Dam. I'll, be going now, I guess.
Oh, man, he really makes me feel bad. So instead we can say, Arcade, I'm honored.
It's the least I could do. All I ask is that you put it to good use. This place has lived in the shadow of Caesar for long enough. I may not be the one to help stop him here, but you are. Fortis fortuna adiuvat. Good luck. And goodbye.
And with that, he heads back to the old Mormon fort. We can go back to the fort and we'll see him there, but he will never again join us as a companion. The Gannon family suit of Tesla power armor is a beautiful suit and one of the best in the game. It has a bit less DT than the Remnants version, clocking in at 26 DT compared to the Remnants 28, but it is 10 pounds lighter, weighing only 35 pounds instead of 45, and because of that is classified as a medium armor instead of a heavy armor. However, it shares the same low durability as the Remnants power armor, meaning we have to repair it quite often. Instead of the +1 strength, this suit grants +10 to energy weapons, and it gives us more radiation resistance with +20 to radiation resistance. The helmet has 6 DT compared to the Enclave helmet's 8, but it too has a -1 charisma penalty and grants only +5 to radiation resistance, which is frustrating because even though it looks a whole lot cooler, the Enclave helmet is clearly better. This is a gorgeous suit of armor. It looks almost identical to the Enclave version, though it has orange doodads on the arms and legs, and big blue sparky thingies on the shoulders, as well as 2 yellow proddy thingamajigs on the helmet. And that is the last we hear of Arcade Gannon and the Remnants, until the battle for Hoover Dam. And the ending to their story plays out in many different ways depending on the choices we made during this quest. If we asked the Remnants to side with the NCR, and we told Arcade Gannon to fight with the Remnants during the Battle of Hoover Dam, if we enter the Visitors Center, we find Arcade Gannon wearing his Gannon family power armor, fighting shoulder to shoulder with the NCR. We can join him to destroy the Legion. When the Visitors Center is clear, we can talk with our old companion.
What's up?
Looking great, Arcade! So what do you think the others will do at Hoover Dam?
I don't think you need to worry about the specifics. Basically, expect a lot of firepower and dead bodies. Enclave technology is even more advanced than Brotherhood equipment. And in the hands of soldiers as experienced as Moreno and the others, let's just say it's truly a sight to behold.
And he's not even kidding. Later on, Daisy Whitman arrives in her Vertibird and drops off the rest of the Enclave remnants. She then flies away to safety. But the other remnants stand here and fight the Legion. But they are mortal, and some of them, like Doc Henry, are particularly squishy. So if we want to keep them alive, we need to immediately start attacking the Legion. We see Doc Henry wearing an Enclave scientist outfit, very similar to the one we found in the Followers' safe house, which means it has really low DT. And Judah is wearing a handsome Enclave outfit, which we haven't seen since the events of Fallout 3. Orion Moreno stands in his full suit of Enclave power armor wielding a plasma caster, and Cannibal Johnson has a minigun. This is particularly exciting because they follow us all the way to the end. If we manage to keep them alive during this battle, they'll follow us all the way to the Legate's camp. But if we chose to side with the Legion, the remnants don't appear until we've fought halfway across Hoover Dam. Then Daisy Whitman arrives in her Vertibird and then flies off to safety. The remnants then fortify themselves behind these sandbag barricades and attack the NCR. We see Orion Moreno wielding his plasma caster, Doc Henry in the same outfit with a laser rifle, and Judah Krieger in his Enclave officer's uniform. We don't find Cannibal Johnson, however, but of course we recall that's because he actually likes the NCR and believes in what they stand for, so he does not support the Enclave here. We also do not see Arcade Gannon, which is no surprise because he hates the Legion. But these three will follow us to the end of the dam until the Legion raids the Visitor Center. Both Arcade Gannon and the Enclave remnants have their own endings at the end of the game. There is one ending I can't show here because it reveals a huge spoiler in the Legion storyline, but I can go through the others. If Arcade Gannon dies for any reason...
Though Arcade's intentions were pure and his goals were noble, he ultimately succumbed to the harsh brutality of the Mojave, like so many before him.
If we end the game siding for the NCR, complete his personal quest, and convince Arcade to fight with the remnants during the battle for Hoover Dam...
Though Arcade had not hoped for an NCR victory, he was proud of his role in the defense of Hoover Dam against the forces of Caesar's Legion. Unfortunately, when word spread that Arcade was once a member of the Enclave, he was forced out of the followers of the Apocalypse. Pursued by bounty hunters, NCR Rangers, and the Brotherhood of Steel, Arcade pushed deep into the Eastern Plains and was never heard from again.
If we side with the NCR, complete his personal quest, and convince him to head back to Freeside,
Arcade had hoped that Freeside would be able to remain independent of NCR rule. But he was glad that Caesar's Legion had been stopped at Hoover Dam. He tended to the sick in Freeside for a while longer, then returned to NCR territory to become a teacher with the followers there.
if we side with the Legion, but complete Arcade's personal quest and encourage him to fight with the Remnants for the NCR during the last Battle of Hoover Dam.
Though Arcade was crushed by the Legion's victory at Hoover Dam, he was not among NCR's casualties. During the NCR's retreat from the Mojave Wasteland, he helped defend NCR citizens and refugees on their way to Mojave Outpost. Unfortunately, NCR Rangers identified his father's armor as Enclave property. He was arrested, tried as a war criminal, and imprisoned indefinitely.
If we side with the Legion, complete Arcade's personal quest, but advise him to go back to the followers' camp.
When news reached Freeside that Legion forces were approaching New Vegas, Arcade did his best to help people escape with adequate supplies. A Legion explorer saw Arcade helping locals escape and pointed him out to a Centurion. Arcade's group was run down somewhere near Westside. There were no survivors.
If we side with Mr. House, complete his personal quest, but advise him to go back to the followers' camp.
Arcade was outraged by Mr. House's power play following the defeat of Caesar's Legion at Hoover Dam. Though he remained in Freeside for a short time after the Securitrons established widespread control, he eventually traveled back into NCR territory. Disillusioned with the followers of the Apocalypse, he settled down in the outskirts of the Boneyard, where he worked happily as a family doctor.
If we side with Mr. House, complete his personal quest, but convinced Arcade to fight alongside the Remnants for the NCR.
Though Arcade was proud to have been one of the defenders who turned back the Legion at Hoover Dam, he was crushed by Mr. House's ascent to power. Saddened by the loss of life and liberty in the area, Arcade left the Mojave Wasteland for parts unknown. He was never heard from again.
If we side with Yes Man, complete his personal quest, and convinced him to fight alongside the Remnants for the NCR.
Arcade was proud to have been one of the defenders who helped repel the Legion from Hoover Dam. He was prouder still to see the area freed from the shackles of the NCR and Mr. House. Though independence for New Vegas was not all he hoped it could be, Arcade used his Enclave knowledge and technology to keep order wherever he could.
And finally, if we side with Yes Man, complete his personal quest, but convince him to go back to Freeside.
Arcade was tending to the locals of Freeside when he learned that Caesar's Legion had been defeated, and NCR was being pushed out of New Vegas. Though he found that independence for New Vegas was not all he hoped it would be, Arcade did his best to help the locals govern themselves.
The Enclave Remnants have their own endings. If we kill all of the Enclave Remnants...
Despite surviving the destruction of the oil rig and the loss of their comrades at Navarro, the venerable Remnants were no match for the Courier. They carried the secrets of their old lives to their graves.
If we complete Arcade Gannon's personal quest, and we don't side with the Legion...
After their bold arrival at Hoover Dam, the Remnants disappeared as quickly as they came. Legends of their power spread throughout the Southwest, a reminder of why people once feared the sight of vertibirds in the sky.
If we complete Arcade's personal quest, but convince the Remnants to side with Caesar, and if Caesar is still alive by the end of the game...
Merciless in their assault on the NCR, the Remnants struck fear into the hearts of even the Centurions at Hoover Dam. Well aware of the full extent of their power, Caesar commanded his troops to not pursue them.
And finally, if we complete Arcade's personal quest, but convince the Remnants to side with Caesar, and if for any reason Caesar is dead...
Merciless in their assault on the NCR, the Remnants struck fear into the hearts of even the Centurions at Hoover Dam. Caesar's heirs aggressively pursued the Remnants into Arizona, losing hundreds of legionaries in the process, and gaining nothing in return.
And with that, we tell the full story of Arcade Gannon and the Enclave remnants. What are your thoughts on Arcade Gannon? Did you find him as hilarious as I did? I thought he was one of the funniest and wittiest characters in all of New Vegas, and I'm really sad that no matter how we complete his quest, he leaves our company. In my gameplay, I'm gonna put off this quest for quite some time, because I just like having him around so much. And what decision did you make with the Enclave remnants? Who did you convince them to support? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I have a brand new shirt in the shop, folks. The game was rigged from the start. We have a familiar man in a daisy suit holding a certain famous chip and with a wonderful drawing of his gun. The design comes on shirts in a variety of both men's and women's sizes and in a wide array of colors. You can also find it on a bunch of other stuff, smartphone cases, mugs, posters, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in for my next video.